Welcome. On behalf of Congressman Brat, I'm Janice Igo, and I welcome each of you to our 7th District Veterans Town Hall. In addition to Congressman Brat, we are so pleased to have the Chairman of the House Veteran Affairs Committee, Congressman Phil Rowe, and his wife Clorinda with us today. Chairman Rowe is our keynote speaker and will present information about the important work that the Committee on Veteran Affairs has been doing. We also have a few other representatives to recognize. State Delegate John McGuire from the 56th District, Ms. Carla Bowie from the Virginia Veteran Services Foundation, and is Supervisor O'Bannon here? No, she didn't make it? Okay. Any other representatives? All right, how about Veteran Services Organization? Raise your hand if you represent a Veteran Service Organization. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. And to all of our veterans, I want to extend a very warm welcome. And since retiring myself in 2014, one of the things I miss, besides my very comfortable combat boots, is the camaraderie, the professionalism, the sense of unity and teamwork, and the can-do attitude of everyone who's worn a uniform and been a part of the United States military. So if I have a chance to be around other veterans, it's a good day. So today is a good day. And it's been good to meet some new faces here today. Some of you I've already had an opportunity to speak with on the phone, or you've been in the office, or I've seen you in other places. So at this time, I want everyone to rise. We will have the colors presented. I'll lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance, and then I ask you to remain standing while the color guard exits, and then we'll have our invocation.
Go. Ready. Go. Present.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry. Go. Ready. Go. Right there. March. Forward. March.
I invite you to pray with me as you are able. Almighty God, our Creator and loving God, we give you thanks this day for the gift of life and the opportunity to share this time together. Guide our conversation, we pray, in a manner that is helpful to those who set the policies and create the programs that help care for our active military members, our veterans, and their families. We pray for those who serve us in this Commonwealth and federal government. We pray especially tonight for Congressman Brat and Congressman Rowe. Give to them and all who represent us the wisdom to lead and the courage to make difficult decisions. Give their families the extra measure of patience needed as they share their family member with many others in our communities. We pray for all those who serve in our armed forces and their families. Defend them by day with your heavenly grace, sustain them in trials and temptations, and grant them both wisdom and courage to complete the responsibilities of their service. And may they always have a sense of your abiding presence wherever they may be found. We give you thanks, O Lord, for those who have served us in the past and given much for the safety of our nation. May we continue to seek ways to improve the lives of these veterans. May your peace that passes all human understanding touch our hearts and lives so that peace with others will follow. In your holy name, with confidence and faith, we place all our cares before you as we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. So just to give some accolades to the Marine Corps JROTC at Limited High School, which is right around the corner, and they have an outstanding program there, over 110 students. So we thank them for being here today. Also thank you, Chaplain Rupar. Chaplain Rupar is the Executive Director for the National Association of Lutheran Interim Pastors, and also he is 29-year veteran with the Army as chaplain and serves in another number of organizations, in military organizations like the Military Officers Association of America. Yesterday, I read Proverbs 25:11. A word aptly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. And to that end, we will look forward to hearing and learning today from you, our veterans, and about the concerns you have, and also to hear what Chairman Rowe's committee and Congress have been doing to better understand the work that still needs to be done. So just a little bit about myself. I've been with Congressman Brat's staff since the beginning of this year. I am in the district office in Innsbruck, and I'm an Army veteran myself. So for 30 years, I began on active duty first and then transitioned over to the National Guard and had an opportunity to wear a couple of hats. My husband was a West Point graduate and officer as well, and so we were dual spouse military, and so we definitely understand all of the challenges from a dual spouse family, raising children. I was also a spouse of a deployed military person 3 times, raising teenagers, so understood all of the dynamics that come with having your loved one deployed. And then additionally, served in multiple components, was on active duty, was in the National Guard. My husband was in the reserves, so I understand the nuances with the different components. And now I'm a military mom. So my son is a specialist in the Virginia National Guard, and I think he has a bright future with the Cyber Brigade. So very, very proud of the military legacy that we have in our family, and I know you all have done a lot of great things as well. So it is an honor and a privilege to serve under Congressman Brat and to work with and for the veterans in the 7th District. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm in the office. I want to work with you and do whatever we can to help you if you're having issues. And we also have an office in Spotsylvania. Chris Schneider, he's standing in the back. He represents our Spotsylvania office, and we have a DC office as well. Congressman Brat believes that the United States was founded on 3 pillars which together made this nation the greatest on the face of the earth: the Judeo-Christian tradition, the rule of law, and the free market system. He is honored and humbled to fight for these values for the people of Central Virginia's 7th Congressional District, which stretches from Culpeper in the north to Nottoway County in the south. Congressman Brat has a BA in Business Administration from Hope College, a Master's of Divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary, and a PhD in Economics from the American University in D.C. Early in his career, he worked in the private sector for the accounting firm Arthur Andersen in Detroit and Chicago, and then at the World Bank assisting developing world economies. Over 20 years ago, he accepted a job at Randolph-Macon College teaching economics, and his family made Virginia home. He later became chairman of the Economics and Business Department and also chaired the Ethics Minor program at the college. He served under 2 Virginia governors on their economic advisory boards and as advisor to State Senator Walter Stosh, and also president of the Virginia Association of Economists. He is a member of the House Budget Committee, Education, and the Workforce Committee, and the Small Business Committee. He is the chairman of the Small Business Subcommittee on Economic Growth, Tax, and Capital Access. Now, since Congressman Brat began representing the 7th District in the 113th Congress and until today, He has voted in favor of a plethora of legislation designed to better support veterans and service members. Of course, he voted in favor of the VA Mission Act, which we will hear about today. And then he voted as well for the Veterans Cost of Living Adjustment Act, the Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act, the Accountability First Act, the Veterans Urgent Access to Mental Health Care Act, and the Ensuring VA Employee Accountability Act, among many others. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Dave Brat.
Thank you all very much. It's nice of you. I have a long, thick stack of papers. I was going to give a little talk, and I'm not going to do that because I want to showcase our special guest, and I want to share him, give him maximum time. He and his wife have been so generous to come through Virginia on their way back home. They have events tonight that they got to get to, and so I'm going to shorten my remarks and just note, first of all, Janice Igo over here, you might have heard 30 years in service, and in the service that usually means something. So what she's too humble to say is that's General Janice Igo, and so I'm very lucky to have her. And she does the casework. I have other staff in the room. Raise your hand, everybody here. From my DC office, Eric's here, Lisa's here. In the back, we have, I'll introduce you to everybody right after. If you have any questions for any of the staff, just come see me and we'll all get together. I just want to connect the dots a little bit between the chairman and then what we do on the ground level. And so we, I think Janice mentioned we do 350 cases, veterans cases this year. That is some hard, detailed work, and I'm very proud of our office for the work they do. When they get a hold of a case, they don't quit until it's either solved or else we hit a block. And sometimes you do hit a block based on what is allowed under policy, and that's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to try to make that better. And so Chairman Rowe is going to talk about some of the improvements that we've made to the system in general, and he'll connect the dots on how big the system is. But we in Virginia, the 7th District, have about 55,000 veterans. And so that's a huge number, and we want to do our best, right? I think the one thing we can all agree on, the role of the federal government, first and foremost, is national security and taking care of our active duty strength and our veterans who have served. And so that's the main case I want to make. I'm going to yield right now to the foremost expert on all of this in the country, who we truly are honored to have with us, and our friend. And as well as being the expert, he's also a medical doctor and just an all-around good guy that everybody likes up in Washington, D.C. And so with that, I give you Dr. Phil Rowe.
Thank you all very much. Look, Dave, I'm glad to get invited anywhere. Congress only has a 10% approval rate. Thank you for inviting me. I told the speaker not long ago, I said, look, there are actually 3 things that poll worse in the U.S. Congress. He said, what in the world could that be? I said, it's Lindsay Lohan, meth labs in North Korea. And I'm not so sure about North Korea anymore. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I actually almost represent Virginia. And I didn't realize when I put this suit on this morning, I actually bought this at Lakely Mitchell, which is in Bristol, Virginia. I represent Bristol, Tennessee, and you can step across State Street, you're in Virginia. And the only address I've ever had in my life outside the state of Tennessee was in Virginia when I was stationed. My last 9 months in the military, I was stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. So I've been in the state many, many times. I know your delegation, and I know Dave very well, and you couldn't have picked a better congressman, I can tell you. He's been incredibly supportive of veterans, and I think, and now the other thing, I guess I left many thousands of dollars here. I had a son of mine that actually attended Brat. I'll make it in Ashland. Well, I don't want Dave to feel too good because he attended most of the colleges in the southeastern United States before he finally finished. He did get his MBA from Vanderbilt, so I feel pretty good about that. And I do want to recognize, I brought my security with me today, which is my wife, Florinda, who's sitting back here. They always ask, do you have guards and all that. The answer is she takes really good care scared me. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Anyway, I grew up in rural Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, on a farm, and never thinking that I would ever be a doctor. My dad was a factory worker. My mother was a bank teller. But I used the public education system to get a great education. I grew up near Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where all of my friends' family were in the military. And I was a Boy Scout and Eagle Scout, and my scoutmaster was a first sergeant in the 101st Airborne Division. By the time I went into basic training, I'd already done it half a dozen times. And so the basic was pretty much a piece of cake because we jumped off. I mean, I can't imagine. You could never get away with what we did then, but that was a different time. I went 2 weeks ago. I went back to my high school reunion in Clarksville, Tennessee, and there were about 45 of us there, almost and about half mixed between men and women. Almost 100% of those men there served in the U.S. military, and many of them in Vietnam. And one of the things that's driven me about this job is how poorly our country treated our Vietnam veterans when we came home. And that should never, ever, ever happen again. And I can tell you, I've traveled a lot. Last week I did a town hall in Spokane, Washington for veterans, and I get on a lot of airplanes and fly a lot. People don't know who I am. And I'm sitting in an airport in Minneapolis or wherever, Denver, or wherever. I'm sitting in Salt Lake. It makes me, I don't know about you all, but it makes me feel really good when the first person can get on an airplane or active duty military or somebody with a card. I feel great about that. And I think it's wonderful. When I first got to Congress, and I too served on the education and workforce and with Dave, and you could not have a better, I'm going to talk about that in just a second, you could not have a better advocate, I can tell you, for education and how it should be done than Dave Brat. He is a very thoughtful, bright man and brings a lot to the U.S. Congress. And please, in this 7th District of Virginia, send him back. We need him. If you can see what's... Anyway, I'll leave it back. We need to send him back. I got on the committee 10 years ago, and I was the least senior person on the committee, but I had a real passion to make things better for our veterans. And 10 years ago, we spent $97.5 billion on all VA put together. That's cemeteries, benefits, and health care. VA operates over 150 major medical centers, over 800 outpatient clinics. Our disability claims, I'm going to go over that in just a minute, it's a huge part of it. And I want to tell you, I don't know whether you've ever done it. Brenda and I led a delegation to Europe for NATO and to go visit the cemeteries in Europe. I'd never done that before. I'm telling you, that is the most powerful thing to how we treat our fallen. It's unbelievable. We went to Flanders Field for World War I and to Belleau Wood where the Devil Dog Spring and the Marines drank from. I drank from that spring. And to see the care and to also see the school children that are being taught. That's something we should be doing in this country, is teaching our young people these things about the history and whose shoulders they rode in on. That this freedom that we have is not guaranteed. It is guaranteed by the men and women that I'm facing right here today. You guaranteed this country's freedom, and thank you for it. And that's what I'm here to do, is to serve you. I've had a great career. I practiced medicine for 31 years. I'm an OB/GYN doctor. I've delivered almost 5,000 babies. It's easier to get elected when you deliver your own voters. And I've got one of them who works on the VA staff. I delivered him, so he better do a good job. Tell his mother. We spent $97 billion. We just passed a bill 2 weeks ago, yesterday. I want you to listen to this. The number for the VA right now is $208 billion. My job is to make sure that that money is spent appropriately and is getting to the veterans, and I'm not sure it is. And I'm very frustrated by that, and I'm going to walk through some of these things with you. This year and a half, 18, 20 months, with the new Trump administration, President Trump made and he did last night again, we heard him speak last night, he made a huge emphasis on veterans, taking care of our veterans. It made my job much easier. So what did we do? He said, look, most veteran employees are good employees, but some are not. And we need to be able to terminate poorly performing employees. We had, and the example I will give you to show you why this had to be done. There was a bank robbery. Actually, she didn't do the bank robbery, but in Puerto Rico, she drove the getaway car, and it took forever to fire this person who was involved in a bank robbery. A nurse that was drunk in the operating room, and look, I've just had 2 major operations in the last year and a half, 2 years. I hope nobody was inebriated in there when they were operating on me. And so these are the kind of egregious things that need to be taken care of. As with Dave's help, we passed the Whistleblower and Accountability Act. You can now do that. Number 2, very near and dear to my heart, when I got to D.C. in 2009, there were 1 million backlog disability claims. 1 million of people waiting to have their claim adjudicated. Then General Shinseki began to ramp that up, and that number, I won't give you some of the frustration, but that number is now cut to about 450,000. We realized it was taking years to get these claims adjudicated. And I want to tell you about one person. I want you to know his name, Phil Street, one of the best friends I ever had in my life. I delivered his kids, took care of his family. It was Phil and Phil. And if we played, if I hit a golf ball, it was with Phil Street. And if it was a bad shot, good shot, it was a Phil in that part that hit it. And he was a young enlisted guy in Thailand during the Vietnam War. His perimeter of his face was sprayed with Agent Orange. And he developed a very rare lymphoma. And he died about a year after treatment. We started working on his disability claim then. 2 years after he died, with me chairman of the committee, his wife finally got the benefits. That's ridiculous. And it shouldn't take the chairman of the Department of the Veterans Affairs in the House to get that done. That mechanism ought to be there. So we passed a bill that will streamline that, and they're doing the sort of the shakedown cruise of it right now. And to show you how we're keeping our eyeball on that, every 90 days I hold a hearing to make sure the VA is doing what it says it's going to do. It's supposed to go live in February, probably the 1st of March of 2019. And there are 3 pathways you can get on. I'm not going to go through the detail of that right now. Your VSOs and other people can help you with that, and Dave Staff can help you with that. I would absolutely encourage you to use one of those tracks. We've had people get claims that have been waiting out there for years, done in 60, 90, 120 days. And I've had many people come up and tell me that. So that's casework, and I won't, obviously that's private things. I don't want to discuss that today, but there's an avenue for you to do that now. Thirdly, a bill that I take great pride in is the Forever GI Bill. When I got back from Korea, I served at Camp Casey, Korea, just south of the DMZ. I got the GI Bill in 1975. I had a young family. To this date, I am thankful that my government invested $300 a month in this young officer at that time. I was a young major when I got out. It really helped me. But it sunsetted at 10 years. And after 9/11, we passed an extraordinary bill called the Post 9/11 GI Bill. It pays up now to $23,000 in tuition. And if you happen to go to a college, a very inexpensive one like Randolph-Macon, I don't know whether you've written a check to them, but 20-something years ago it wasn't inexpensive then. So anyway, that college, if they provide some scholarship money, and they're in this program, the VA will match it. So you can actually get $40,000 to $50,000 in tuition, and will come out debt-free. And let me tell you this, Dave and I know this, $1.3 trillion in student loan debt across the country. That's unbelievable. But if you are in the service, you absolutely can come out debt-free. Also, you get a per diem, so you can where you can live. It's based on E5's rank, wherever zip code you happen to be, and you get some money for books. But it's sunsetted at 15 years. Fully paid for. This bill is fully paid for. You now can use the GI Bill the rest of your life. So at age 50, if you lose your job to somewhere, you can get retrained. Number 2, if you have shed blood for this country, if you've earned a Purple Heart, I don't care if you serve 30 minutes, you get the full GI Bill if you shed blood for this nation. Number 3, and I know the general was in reserves, and I tell everyone, I actually was in the volunteer army too. I volunteered to go to the mailbox one day, and I got a draft notice. And anybody tells you don't know what the draft number is, they're lying. Number 27. I'll never forget that number. I knew I was going. I just didn't know when I was going or where I was going, but I knew I was going. So with that, then they just drafted all the people they needed. They really didn't serve with the Guard and Reserve. My 278th Maintenance Battalion, where I live at home, they've been called up 3 times since in the 10 years I've been in Congress and deployed. So those men and women serve, we've upped their benefit, and for the Gold Star families, we've upped their benefit. The thing that I want to talk about a little bit now, and I will need your help in doing this, is I want to share with you my vision for the direction I think the VA needs to go. Healthcare is changing dramatically, as you well know. And I had the privilege that I co-chair the Doctors' Caucus in Congress. There are a dozen or so doctors, and I chair that committee. We had Dr. Francis Collins, who's head of the NIH, in to see us a couple of weeks ago. I could spend the next hour talking about what we talked about. And Dr. Collins is the physician. Matter of fact, he's from Stanton, Virginia. He's just your neighbor down the road here. It's where he's originally from. He's the doctor that was in charge of the Human Genome Project. That cost several $100 million. They now can do your entire genome for $800, and it's going down. And the remarkable things that are happening in medicine right now are mind-boggling with precision medicine. It's going to be coming very rapid. Let me just give you one quick one. It's probably not anybody in here doesn't know somebody with a family that has ALS. We have a young school principal at home that has that. Now, one of my good friends' husbands has ALS. I had an uncle that died of ALS. We deliver babies that have a very similar syndrome. They're kind of floppy at birth, and they all die by age 1. As a physician at NIH that's worked for 40 years, and I'm not going to go through the details, but a bacteria recognizes when a virus gets inside it that it's trying to kill it. The virus is. It builds up a memory to that. They've used some of that memory to be able to create a treatment for this, and there have been kids now that are 3 to 4 years old that have this that was terminal. They don't know how long it's going to last because they're just 4 years out, but they don't know whether it'll last the rest of their life or they have to do the treatment again. Point is, there are remarkable things coming, and the VA has got to change with it. The VA, right now, where I live, I have a VA hospital a mile from where I live 34 years. I mean, I've been on that campus hundreds, if not thousands of times on the VA campus at home. It was built and opened in 1903 for Civil War veterans. Well, that's not how medicine's practiced today. And remember this little number today when I tell you this, that the actual heads in hospital beds peaked in 1981. The actual number of people in a hospital bed. Population's grown 40% since that time, and yet we have 10% less people in the hospital. Why? Because we're doing so much as an outpatient. And I'll share with you my own story. I had done thousands of operations. I'd never been operated on until 2 years ago. And I herniated a disc in my back and had foot drop, and I mean, I was dying, and my neurosurgeon, who's a good friend of mine, operated on me, and I told him, I said, you know, I'm putting you right up there with Jesus. You made the lame walk. I mean, you cured me. Less than a year after that, a little over a year ago, I had cancer, had prostate cancer, had robotic prostate cancer surgery. I spent less than 2 days, 48 hours in the hospital for both of those things. Years ago, you'd have spent a couple of weeks in the hospital. My point is, we need to be thinking about what our VA is going to look like 10 and 20 years from now. That's one of the things I've tried to do in craft of the VA Mission Act. This is a very urban area here. But I had to create a bill that not only met urban interests, but rural interests, where I live in rural America. We have a good friend of ours who's the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee who lives in Oregon. I was in his district last October. His congressional district has more square miles than the state of Tennessee has. So, I mean, we're not a little teeny state like Vermont. We're a fairly good-sized state. It's that big. So we had to create a situation where rural veterans can get care just like people who live around close to a VA hospital. So how do we do that? You all are all familiar with the scandal that occurred in Phoenix, which was really unbelievable when we finally unfolded it in 2014, where people came in to the hospital And they wrote your name down on, you wanted an appointment, they wrote your name down on a piece of paper, but they did not enter you into the electronic health system. So you never were really in that system. When somebody got an appointment in the electronic system, they moved you from the paper to that. So it looked like those appointments were getting made quickly. It was a lie, and it was wrong, and people died. And so we started the VA Mission Act, and quite frankly, the VA Choice Act. The problem with that was we asked the VA, quite frankly, to do something they couldn't do, nobody could have done it. It's to set up a hospital network across the whole country in 90 days. And nobody could have done it. Blue Cross, nobody could have done it. So it did stumble and bumble out. And I think that this is going to be better. We've given the VA the money. It is not a money issue. They have the ability to do that. So when you, as a veteran, go in, that decision will be made when you have a primary care team there, and the criteria will be published next week about how you access care outside the VA hospital. That's number one. Number two, and how you get that care is going to be a work in progress. If it's in the VA and that's the best care you can get, that's where I want you to get it if you want to. If that care is accessible outside, I want you to get it outside. And we've done that at our home VA. We've used a cardiology group outside the VA, and we've used an orthopedic group inside the VA. So wherever you get the best care, that's where I want the veteran to go. Number two, there's a second part to that bill. It's the caregiver bill. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but catastrophically injured veterans that post 9/11, and I tell you, I'll probably get teared up talking about these people, but I got to be a surgeon. I came home with all of my abilities, my head, eyes, hands, everything worked fine. But there are two young men I've met that have lost all four extremities. Now think about that. In service to our country, I can never do enough for them. I can never do enough for them. And so we looked at those situations like that, and we said, look, we're going to provide, if their spouse stays home with them and gives up their career, then they need to have a per diem and pay them a salary, some money, because it's actually cheaper and it's better for the veteran. If you institutionalize somebody, that's $80,000, $90,000 a year. If they can stay home, it's better for the veteran, better for the spouse. And if they don't have health insurance, the VA provides it. But that benefit, and that's obviously a service-connected disabled veteran, that did not apply to my generation, pre-9/11. So we treated one set of veterans different than we did another set of veterans. We've righted that wrong. And that's being put, that implementation is being put in. And thirdly, is the what I call a VA asset review, where we look at the VA. The VA has 6,000 buildings nationwide. And how do we provide care in those buildings? 1,100 of them, nobody's even in. So we got to figure out what to do with all these empty buildings. We're spending in Pittsburgh $3 million a year to maintain buildings that don't have anybody. They're not doing anything. They're sitting
Do
there.
we own them or rent them?
So what's that?
Does the government own them or rent them?
No, they own them.
No, that's-
It's where we own them. Good, and I'm
Sell it.
going to get to your, well, we're going to have
Go
to have
ahead,
your help
I'm
doing
sorry,
it.
go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to have your help doing that, because we're going
Go ahead,
to
please, I
process,
don't want to stop you.
process together to do just what you're talking about.
Right.
And that process is in the bill.
A lot of these things are simple answers.
Yeah, we're doing that, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The other thing that's occurring in the country is a change in demographics. People moving from the north and east to the south and west. Populations are growing. And just to give you an example, 50 years ago, New York State had 45 representatives. They now have 27 in relation to the country. People are moving. Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia. Virginia's growing. So the VA needs to be nimble and able to move like that. The last couple things I want to talk about. One that's very, very near and dear to my heart, the Blue Water Navy. Look, I have looked, these are men and women who served on surface ships off the coast of Vietnam. And the men and women who served on the Brown Water Navy, that's the guys who went upstream. And one of my buddies, I spent the weekend with him, served in the Brown Water Navy. The Blue Water guys were treated differently. They are no Agent Orange presumption for them. So for 10 years, I've been working on getting that done. I found a way to fully pay for it. They're only $90,000. I got some news. Like I'm that generation. 523 of us, my age, are dying every day. And I told them, I said, we can wait around till we all die. or we can do the right thing. And just like, unfortunately, we just did this for Agent Mustard Gas, for World War II veterans, there's only 400 left living. And it took that long to write that law. So we passed that bill, fully paid for, 382 to 0, a goose egg. It's over in the Senate right now, and believe it or not, Secretary Wilkie and I have had a lot of conversation about this. The VA's pushing back on doing this, implementing this bill, and it's in the Senate. And because the science is not that good. I said, I totally agree. I'm a scientist. I've read the studies. You will never prove it one way or the other. Let's just treat these men and women, because it is self-limited. 90,000 are going to die. And we ought to do the right thing for them. The ones that are disabled, the ones that are developing these Agent Orange type diseases, treat them like their brothers and sisters that served in Vietnam. Let's just get it done. So we're going to hopefully get that done. I'm going to finish because I want to leave some time for Dave too. I didn't mean to take all this much time. There's so much to talk about. We've done so many things. Let me just tell you a quick little stuff. It doesn't amount to anything unless you're the one it involves in. Let's say you're deployed and you just signed with Verizon a 1-year contract with this thing. Okay? Well, you couldn't get out of your contract. Here you are in Afghanistan and you can't get out of it. Well, now you can. And there were 2 other things that I hadn't thought about it, cable TV and internet service. If you're a soldier and you get deployed, and I was on the House floor debating this, and I started thinking, that wasn't a problem when I was in because there was no cable TV, no internet or cell phones. So I didn't have to worry about any of that. But they do now. Just another small bill, and I want to again thank Dave for this, is that we had Gold Star people, a woman or a man, Gold Star, who had signed maybe a year's lease, and this happened in Texas. What a jerk this guy was. Signed a lease, and look, this lady wanted to be home with her family. She had a child, she had nobody there, and her husband was dead. This guy wanted to make her keep her pay the lease for a year. Well, now you can get out of that lease if you're a Gold Star victim, and you can go, if you want to get out, and go back to your own, with your family where they can take care of you. Those were a lot of little things, but if it affects you, it's 100%. It means a lot. And I want to thank Dave for his unwavering support for those things. So I'll stop, and I'd love to take some questions, and I just want to tell you it's a privilege to serve you. I've had a career. The worst thing that happened to me, if I lose, I go to the golf course and play golf badly. So nothing bad can happen to me. And I want to thank you all for your service. You're the ones that really help make this country what it is. And I truly do appreciate the opportunity to serve you. So thank you. And if you got any questions, fire away.
Yeah, we're going to open up Q&A, and so today, just related to veterans. And while we have Chairman Rowe with us, let's utilize him. And then if we need to get into detailed casework, we'll meet with you afterward. My whole staff is here in the back. We have several other folks. And we'll make sure we have literature back on the table, sign up. If you came for that reason, we're going to deal with it. But today I want to showcase, you've just seen how he connected massive institutions and amounts of material, right? So if this was an economics lecture, I might come up here. But today it's all him, so give him what you got. Any open for questions?
Hi. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all you do for us, too. This is my daughter, and she's a disabled veteran. She's 23 years old, so a very young one. She's blind in one eye, so she's not just being cool with the glasses. But suffers from anxiety, PTSD, and all those things as a result of some her military service, etc. So we had some ideas that, having gone through the veteran system, she transitioned through post-war and everything, and then has been discharged, I guess, and just got permanent disability recently, but was discharged 2 years ago, I think, at this point. But we feel like, and I'm so glad what you're doing with the physically disabled veterans, with the caregivers. With her, we feel like, because she was so young, she joined right out of high school. She didn't know how to do life or anything like that. She went through Fort Belvoir, which is great. It transitions and tries to teach you and tells you how to do your resume and all those good things when you're transitioning out to be a civilian. But at the same time, she was getting surgeries and there was a lot to worry about anyway. If she wouldn't have been released, the bottom line is, and didn't have sort of a halfway house or mentor or low-income housing or a caregiver of some form to help her manipulate through getting set up in life, because she had so little knowledge because she was so young. If we wouldn't have been able to step back, and I did take a leave of absence from my job, be her permanent caregiver, she would probably be dead, because of her mental issues that she couldn't have taken care of, or homeless because she wouldn't have known how to get herself set up, and on the disability that she even got paid, although we appreciate it all, wouldn't have been able to live in an area that would have been suitable and safe for her. So we think, one of the ideas would be sort of that caregivers should have the same ability like the physically disabled, the mentally ill, disabled veterans should have the same kind of caregivers that are able to them. Our thing was denied. We asked for that support because she can quote unquote
I
dress
could dress
herself.
myself, in which I told them, how can I dress myself if I killed myself? And they didn't really know how to respond to that, and this woman saved my life. And I go, so you're not gonna give this woman who saved a veteran's life, I mean, I would call her, at 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm having a PTSD episode, I need you to come over. I also suffer from a TBI, from a remote weapon system exposure.
Where were you injured?
Second Cavalry Regiment, Germany, Vilsack.
Germany?
Yes, so. And, so as you can imagine, I've been on the physical side and the mental side. The physical side has been great to me. The eye care has been amazing. With my hip injury, it's been amazing. But on the mental health side, it seems to be swept under the rug. A lot of
And
the time.
caregivers, that 23 hours after, especially with PTSD, that's so, you don't know when it's gonna come up,
Sure.
so you kind of have to be on call all the time. And I'm a realtor, so that was really hard because I'm on call anyway,
Anyway,
and
yeah.
trying to help her, she's on the fetal position on the floor, get through whatever it is. So caregivers, as well as the physical disabled patients, I think should be relooked at to look and evaluate her more just on, versus just if they can, because she can dress herself, but it doesn't mean that she will do it that day,
I agree with you. One of the things in Congressman Brat's office that may need to be looked at by someone else. Let me also tell you all, yesterday we held a hearing that we're going to start. If people ask me, what are you going to do next year? There's so much to go over. It's just hard. We've got so much we're doing. And by the way, I want to tell, I don't know whether you, look, the district I live in, Attila the Hun is a liberal there. To let you know how conservative that place I live. I could care less what political branch I'm serving the veterans. I don't care what you are. And neither does Dave. But when it comes to our veterans, we're going to take care of your needs as best we can. And we'll never get it all right. We're having 20 veterans, active duty, guard and reserves commit suicide every day in this country. And we started in 2000, let me give you these numbers. In 2003, because we just had this hearing yesterday, 2003 we spent $2.4 billion on those mental health services. This year's budget is about $8 billion. The line is steady. It's the same. And I said, look, if we're not making any progress, why don't we find out what does work and do that and quit working? We have a plan. I want to tell you guys this because I think every guard, and General, I think this is one, General Hastings is the commander of the Tennessee Guard. And he took over in 2011. First 40 days, he was the commander of the Tennessee Guard. He had 4 suicides. He said, we got to do something. Got to be something done. So he got in with a foundation called the Jason Foundation and started a Guard Your Buddy program. And what they did was you got a buddy, you got a buddy right there. It's your buddy.
Right.
And on that, and young people like you are more likely to do it. I basically, you could hand me a hand crank. That's about what I use a phone for and email. But they put an app on, and literally you can hit this app. I've done it. And in less than 2 clicks, you can be talking to a master's level psychologist.
That's our next.
2
that's
clicks,
the-
master's level,
that's our next-
day or night. And let me tell you what's happened. The suicide rate in the Tennessee Guard has dropped 68%. And it costs $1.50 a month per enrollment. It's nothing. And we ought to scale that across. I said, look, we know this is working. Why don't we do this across the country? What is working? We're spending all this money and we're getting the same result.
Well, not only that, but somebody with TBI or PTSD, if they have a regular therapy appointment, if they're having a bad day, the last thing they want to do is get dressed and drive to the therapy appointment. So that video chat would be great, so that
Yes.
they can have it in the comfort
Well,
of their own living room and not miss those.
We passed a bill, and again, there are so many, I mean, I can't go through them all, but we passed a bill that allows, you can't do it in private medicine because of Medicare, because of, like, I have my license in Tennessee, but I'm not licensed to practice medicine in Virginia. And so we're using telehealth now across the country. I was in a VA hospital in St. Louis, Missouri, not too long ago, 6 weeks ago, and they had specialists at an ICU in Chicago that actually consulted them via telehealth to take care of ICU patients. We'll go to someone else. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Dana Parsons. Thank you for being here today. I'm with Leading Age Virginia and representing the Continuum of Aging Services. And we want to bring an issue to your attention regarding veterans who participate in adult day services. This is a great program for veterans. It allows them to stay in their homes, prevents them from going to nursing homes, and having socialization during the day. Recently, we were informed that veterans' eligibility has been cut. So veterans who were going to adult day for 5 days a week, or 4 or 3, have been in some cases cut down to 1 or 2 days a week. And many adult days are now not being able to serve adult veterans because of this issue. And so I just ask for your help to restore eligibility so that veterans could go to adult day and receive all the services that they need.
I agree with you, it is a great
Thank you.
service.
So, unfortunately, I got a lot of Thank you so much for allowing me to stop and speak. I really appreciate it. I did send a letter to the secretary.
For everybody.
Sorry.
Which is your, yeah, because so everyone in the room can hear it.
So I'm Megan Kelly, no relation. A little bit nicer than she is. I actually was Marine and Army Guard, and I also, I am also a PMP, SharePoint developer, business analyst, master's degree, certification from Stanford, and I was honored to be the program director for the 1-800-Suicide for the First Lady Bush, the original one, for her suicide prevention program, and I still have every one of her requirements that she did for that application. Not many actually made it to the actual product, but I have quite a number of things that a lot of the people, I represent a whole bunch of Facebook blogs, you know, Veterans of Veteran, the MST, women's sexual trauma, the military sexual trauma, a lot of the different components, and it's basically survivors helping others with victim empowerment. But a lot of different things that we've noticed that really need to come to the forefront. We have a lot of veterans, and a lot of veterans with a lot of different skills that can be of help, and we are available and we want to help. We see the broken and we want to fix, not just for ourselves, but for our family. Because everyone can tell you, especially in the Marine Corps, once a Marine, always a Marine, he is my brother, she is my sister, and I will fight for her and him just as much as I will my own family.
And we'll never quit.
Exactly. To death, and probably even beyond. So the claims process is broken. I go to Virginia, I'm 60%. I go to South Carolina, I'm 80%. Go to Minnesota, been offered 100%. Kind of an incentive to go to Minnesota, but but it's the same manual. It's the same for every state. However, it's very subjective based on the people that are in there. So, you know, just to throw this in, I'm going to kind of get myself a little bit in here. My MST was denied, my MST PTSD was denied. The sole reason why they actually gave it to me, rape as a reservist does not count. Violated. I have podiatry, DBQ by the VA podiatrist. The CNP, oh, and by the way, for my MST, I was never granted a CNP for the entire process. The MST coordinator never called and left a voicemail to let me know she was assigned, even though it was something that apparently, after the fact, I found out was supposed to be someone who helped me with that. I had a TIA right before I submitted the claim, so I was incapacitated. My hardship was denied, or excuse me, my hardship was granted, just never put into the system until Congressman Brat and his congressional. But at that point, I had actually already requested to go back to work, even though I was not medically fit. I did have to go back to work because my family could not survive on $385 a month. Lost my house, Chapter 7, you know, had a security clearance and basically had to give it up because of that. You know, so not to throw myself. I work for a lot of different people on those blogs. Almost 100% of the ones that chime into those things are rape victims that have been denied. A lot of them, you know, I want to say that, you know, they have to get a lawyer, they have to do whatever. I had one friend, very, very dear friend, 37 years ago, she actually had her, she was Air Force, unfortunately, still a dear friend, but she was in Air Force base housing. A coworker broke into her house after she had put her children to sleep, broke her jaw, broke her body, was about ready to rape her when a neighbor saved her life. It took 37 years of appeals for her to get 10% service-connected PTSD. Her TMJ for her broken jaw, still denied, and she is still appealing. And unfortunately, all of her congressmen and senators never even responded when she went to cry for help.
Tell her to get the grant program.
Her VSO is trying to help.
Yeah, advise her, seriously, get her the grant program.
Yeah, her VSO is actually trying to help now, and it's starting to come through, but it's a challenge, and for those that have actually gone through all of those different things, it is painful. For my actual feet, that was a 2014 DBQ by a VA podiatrist. I am still 3 years away from actually meeting the General's VBA board.
Let me say one thing while you're going on military sexual trauma. Those of y'all don't know what MST is. We just had an IG report, which the VA's RO, the regional offices, under evaluated those by 50%. So we're taking a look, and I will tell you all this. I'll share this with you. I don't think it's not a secret, but I have 2 investigative teams, and what I will do is I will send a team out to a VA center with 1 hour's notice. I've sent them all over the country. You knock on the door, you say, we'll be there in an hour. You can't sweep the dirt up in an hour. And we go through that whole VA hospital, and they send me back a report. I've done that time and time again. If you see something out there that's, and look, I've got to tell you, the VA in my hometown, it's a 4 or 5-star VA. They do a great job. I am so proud of the VA hospital, but they're not all where I live. They're not all like that. And the VA is a huge organization. When I got there in 2009, there were 250,000 employees. Today, the VA has 370,000 employees. It's larger than the U.S. Navy. So that's how big it's done. And it is a situation, you're absolutely right. One RO might do this. The other RO may show you for the same exact, we're trying to get that standardized.
Actually, that's where I can help you, sir. With my IT background, I've worked numerous federal contracts, 3-letter agencies and on up, VICAP, the whole bit. I actually have ideas that I wanted to present. I sent a letter to the Secretary of VA, ignored. And I actually gave him all of my credentials and said, sir, I know how to fix you. You have the workflow, you have the technology, you just need to put it to work for you. And you're not. You have one manual. It's very easy to automate that manual. It's very easy to basically make it to where even my daughter, who's 25 and she's special needs, 4th grade reading level, even she can understand it. Because I've actually processed it, you know, the understanding through her, what it is, the step-by-step. But for the appeals, the same thing. You have that technology, it just is not extended to that. You don't have that visibility, you don't have that capability for veterans to get in there and help themselves or even understand what that no was. we have the skills, we have the technology. And for the doctor in you, I had 4 bad anthrax shots, a dozen illnesses linked to my anthrax shot. I get to go to surgery, 10-3, basically get half my stomach hacked up. WRIS is one of the war center illnesses that is on your website that basically says if you have anthrax shot injuries, you're supposed to go with them. I was denied because I was not deployed. On one of the other blogs that I belong to, there are at least 50 other soldiers that were neither deployed. I spoke to Dr. Bach, who is the senior researcher over in Minnesota VA for the burn pit. I have the exact same genetic markers for the burn pit. I have almost half, if not more, of the illnesses for burn pit, but yet I did not deploy. And according to him and myself and my doctors and all of the research, thankfully for the hematologist who actually did some digging and found the tumors in enough time to save me, unlike another one of my friends that had the anthrax shot that I did and already is dead. Basically, it's our genetic makeup. It basically put our liver into the chronic inflammation state. So everything that can get inflamed in our bodies is allergies, asthma. I have cysts in my liver and my uterus. One's the size of a grapefruit right now. The other one is the size of a cantaloupe. I have adrenal gland cysts. I have kidney cysts. You know, I've been told by the pulmonologist at Walter Reed that more than likely I'm going to die from COPD because of the damage that was done to my lungs. He likened it to a firefighter that goes into a burning building and gets his lungs singed in the fire. I don't smoke, but chances are I will probably die from COPD. But the only thing that's service connected is the asthma. All the rest of them, WRIS has denied care and said because I did not deploy, I cannot go and get the care. I cannot get the service connection. And because of my commanding officer throwing my medical records in the trash during my deployment because of my getting sick, I don't have the medical documentation to prove it now. So therefore, none of it is getting service connected.
What I would do, and for the trustees, we got a lot of people who want to get questions asked. Why don't you take that up with his case people? So there's some other folks I think will ask questions, and we can get this.
Oh, yes, sir. Well, one other thing that I really would like to try to do this, I spoke to the...
How many people have questions?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people.
Let's try to get through questions that are policy related, and then the case study, we will meet with everybody here in my staff, we will get that done. Let's focus on, while we have Chairman here.
Yes, sir, I did.
How am I gonna go with these guys? I went off to a beautiful vacation resort in southern South Carolina in '73.
And just for the record, for you Marines out there, it was the Army that actually captured Bellinwood. I just want to pass that.
Not true, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marine.
No, sir. No, the battle.
29 was on the right, and they...
No, wait a minute. The Battle of Bellewood, you're correct. The town of Bellewood, because I was there, the Army took that.
That was the easy part.
Just one of personal privilege. Go right ahead.
There's a couple of issues here. The first one I want to address is the opioid problem. My job in the Marine Corps, I was a narcotics dog handler. So I was around drugs, and we got all the don't do's, and we sucked it up, and we knew it. So in 1991, when I returned from the Gulf, well, I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to school, and I went to the Army, and they taught me how to fly helicopters. So that's how I ended up at Fort Campbell flying Blackhawks. Yes, the opioid situation, years back, they had to convince me to take these things. The doctor spent a whole appointment telling me that if you don't, Mr. Tucker, you're not gonna be able to perform normal daily tasks. Well, that was back in 1991, and I didn't believe that. But now I'm starting to discover we really beat the hell out of our bodies. I found out last week from an MRI that I broke my back somewhere. Now, this opioid thing, they gave me the stuff and it started to work. And I was able to perform things. I wasn't able to choose what child sporting event to go to because I couldn't do both. And I had anxiety issues. So they gave me the benzos. Somewhere along the way, I stopped that. I got off of that. So then I try to get back. I'm having tremendous issues with night terrors. I have concussions. I fly out of bed and have to get hauled to the hospital in an ambulance. And all the VA wants to do is cram antidepressants in us. And I don't know how many other guys are getting that. You got a problem, you walk into mental health in the VA, you're depressed. We're going to give you these antidepressants. I've got a whole bunch of pages of antidepressants. I'm taking any more. I'm taking myself off of those things. Now, what gets me dead on that is they're telling me that I'm wrong, that this stuff will kill you if we combine that stuff. Well, why did you tell me that back when I was given this stuff and it was successful? I don't use drugs. I use my meds as prescribed. At one point, I was taking 180 milligrams of morphine a day, not including the breakthrough meds of Percocet. You know, I gradually got that down. Now, this is kind of off the subject, but when I go to class reunions, having been away from people, and they find out I'm taking morphine 3 times a day, a lot of them lose their minds. What's wrong with you? Have you tried marijuana? No, I was, I did.
And I think Doc, and you heard enough to make your.
I can.
I think he'll connect some dots for you. And that's just give a doctor, because he's both a doctor and a veteran.
About what's happening right now.
So give your assessment so we can get you where you need, and we can get everybody in here answered.
Here's basically the situation that we have. There are people that have chronic pain. There are a lot of ways to manage chronic pain. We also have an opioid epidemic in the country. In 1998, in the state of Tennessee, we delivered to the entire state of Tennessee 50 opioid-addicted babies in the entire state of Tennessee. In 2015, we had over 1,000. I got started with the absolute first neonatal intensive care unit. We started in a closet in 1978 in the old hospital at home. We now have a state-of-the-art, we have a medical school on the VA campus there in Johnson City. We have a state-of-the-art 50-bed neonatal intensive regional care center for Southwest Virginia, a little bit of North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee. We now have a separate NICU for drug-addicted babies. We had 1,700 Tennesseans die of drug abuse. That's the dark side. Okay, there's a huge problem there. What happened to you in the early 90s and mid-90s was, and Medicare actually promoted this, was that we treated pain as a 5th vital sign. And it's not a vital sign. And there are 4 vital signs, and they're all objective. You can measure every one of them. And doctors got dinged if they didn't prescribe these things. And they can become addicted to people, but there are patients, properly managed, who need these drugs. There's no question there is a proper use for these drugs. It's not for someone like me, who's an OBGYN doctor. That's not for me to do. It would take an expert in pain management to do that. But there's one county I just read about it today, in my state, a county that has 250-something narcotic pills for every resident in the county prescribed. That's crazy. So somewhere in the middle, and by the way, when you mentioned the opioids, we just voted on a bill this week that will fund about $8 billion in being able to look at alternatives and different ways to treat this. So that's a very individual thing that you've got where you sit down and have that discussion with your doctor.
by doing that, of course, we didn't talk about that, so it's what I did to work on it. But I got down from 180 milligrams down to 45 milligrams. Well, that's no longer the case. I was arrested for possessing 2 grams of marijuana, so I don't mess anymore. And my opioids going back up again. It's a hurt. Hurt bad. They come a new cyst on my spine.
Well, let me tell you what I did do also. Again, too many bills to go over all of. But I have heard, I've heard this business about medical marijuana all my life. I'm a scientist, okay? Either does work or doesn't. No one has actually, that's a personal testimony. Science is where you have a double-blinded study where you take this, you don't know whether you're getting it or not. The other guys know what you're getting, and you study the results. I've now not ordered, but strongly ordered the VA to carry out that study. I've been trying to get that done for years. And finally now it's funded, and that will be done. We will find out, does it work or does it not as a scientist.
What do you mean, little?
Yeah, no, it's huge.
You know, I went to that mental health clinic there, went to show a doctor what someone was doing, touching me, and I would do that. You don't touch anybody these days. Yeah, it's assault. I wouldn't even hold anyone's hand when it's a hand. Can I hold your hand? Well, you should have. You got cowards in the chair, and I got to. What kind of a doctor? We don't have a report. I'm leaving. So I tried to get another doctor, and they said, sir, fill out this form. It's going to take at least 30 days to process that. Then you have to wait for the appointment. It was 3 months later. I took my situation to Channel 8 News. They did a segment on it. Since then, I can't go through that door at the wire. My things have been flagged. They write disruptive behavior reports on me. I was thrown out of the emergency room one night because the doctor refused to look at my spine. Yes. Well, now what's happening is I had 3 appointments canceled in the last week, 2 yesterday. I wanted to have those things today and to give to the journal. And they said, I canceled those appointments. So they're retaliating now because I'm doing it. And I don't go into VA anymore without this, and it's recording. I'm recording right now. My problem is, how do I get these things transcribed to answer these messages that's being given by the director of
We'll keep
public
I'll make-
relations?
It's a case.
We'll get it. We'll get it. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is John Richardson, retired Air Force enlisted, got my direct commission with the Navy. Chairman Roy, thank you for being here. Congressman Brat, of course, you know my great appreciation for you and your staff. I will say this about General Igu. I served with her husband in 2000, from 2010 to 2011. He's no longer with us. We lost a great American. The only prideful moment that I ever saw him have was the announcement of her promotion. And I don't believe in coincidences. I know how many times I should have been taken from this earth. So I am so happy that she is on your staff. I'm happy. It was an honor and a privilege to serve with Colonel Damon Igu, and both of you are great Americans, and I really appreciate you. One thing I want to say is that anyone who is a 100%er for pay purposes, there's the small insurance policy that you get. If you're paying for it, you're not supposed to be paying for it. You have to apply for a waiver, and the booklet is written in this stilted language that no one can understand. The VA deliberately produces documents, forms in language that is sometimes incomprehensible. You can't even understand exactly what the sentence says. That's one thing I want to tell you. If you are 100% for pay purposes and you are paying for that $10,000 life insurance policy, you should not be. And you should not have to apply for something that you've already earned. You should not have to apply for a waiver. When I raise this problem, just as this gentleman said, I was literally targeted by the VA. I cannot go to a VA facility for treatment. I'm on a hit list. And don't believe that they don't exist. If you cause a problem, you're flagged.
Yes,
I've
I
been-
was flagged yesterday.
I was told a story that a gentleman lost 50 pounds, we called him back in, we cut his benefits by 50%. So, but the simple thing I do want to say is that if you are 100% for pay purposes and they are taking this $38 to $40 a month out of your benefit, you have to apply to stop that. And then you can only get up to $600 back. Say, for example, you are a World War II veteran, you didn't notice. My wife, who is very good at detail-oriented things, she read it, and she said, honey, you're not supposed to be paying for this. So when I brought the issue up, it really erupted. It really bounced back towards me. But I do want to make that point, and something should be done about that. There should not be any such thing as a waiver. There should not be any staff hours, personnel hours dedicated to something that you have already earned. You should not have to apply. I can't come up with an analogy, but it's like applying for salvation if you're a Christian. It doesn't work that way.
I do that every day.
Well, but you know what I mean, it's free. And so I want to make sure you know about that. And then I have a letter that I wrote to the last administration. Congressman Brat addressed his cover letter to the president himself. I'm talking the previous administration. Senator Kane, his cover letter went to the Congressional Liaison Office. After little to zero help, his chief of staff, Senator Kane's chief of staff, told me don't bother them anymore. Mark Warner, the same with them, won't return my phone calls. This 355 cases that Congressman Brat is talking about, it's more than that. It's actually more than that. Because a lot of our situations are inter and intra-agency involved. I have multiple issues that the congressman has been working on and his staff have been working on with me since 2012. So I'm probably, my situation, I would add another 20 if you're counting metrics. I would add another 20 to that count, just representing me and my wife, helping me alone. But I would ask one thing. I would ask if I could hand this letter to a member of your staff, sir, and that I'm hoping that this is one of those divine providence moments, because I know the language that this president, would use to address what's been done to me. If you Google my name, John Richardson, and you look at 2 news articles from the McClatchy News Service, written by Marissa Taylor, you will find out that not only did I lose my promotion that I earned, I was promoted to 05 for my last deployment, and for ending up on the temporary disability retirement list, my promotion was taken. Then I went back to my federal job at Internal Affairs for a federal agency, and I was forced out of my job because of my disabilities. People think I look fit, but I have 3 dozen bolts and 2 titanium rods and other metal in my body from my service. That's my personal story. I will give you my letter, Mr. Chairman, but I do want to thank Congressman Brat. And the thing is when you come to the staff, they get frustrated too. You have to realize this man is basically a corporate level executive. She is a corporate level VP. You need to do your research. You need to come to them and have solutions. You need to help narrow the gap for them so they can better understand how to help you. A lot of this stuff comes out of us emotionally, but we have to help them do the work on our behalf. And one of the ways in which you do that is that you educate yourself on the regs. Yep. If a VSO won't help you, do it yourself. But you cannot just come to them with just your personal pain, because everyone's pain, everyone has a story, everyone has problems, and even the young men
I was on Admiral Clark's protective detail when the first wave of Marines were coming back. And I can tell you, I know the impact that these young people and what these young people out of high school are suffering from. So someone who's basically 60 years old and who can write and who can speak for himself, if this is what's being done to me, I can only imagine what's being done to some of these younger folks that went in right out of high school because they are dedicated to preserving this country. So with that in mind, I'll yield the
John,
mic.
my guess is a lawyer wrote that, not to disparage anybody, but my guess is it was probably written by some legal teams. You can't understand the word in it.
No, sir.
Who cannot.
We're running this country.
But please, that issue alone, I believe provincial.
I got a note on that, and
Yes,
I'll check.
Thank you, and I'll just generalize it, because we went through all 10 counties, over August, met with a lot of veterans, and that same issue came up. I don't know whether you could address it in general, but in general, the VA Choice Act, and now the new bill, a lot of people had the same question, said, I gotta travel rural areas, drive an hour, hour and a half, and I don't know that I'm covered when I get there. He says, I gotta go there and then find out that I'm covered. Are they working on?
Yes,
That's
let
not
me
his
give you, and then we're gonna get this gentleman here, let me give you a quick, just a very Cliff Notes version of this. Dave, my idea is this, is if you are living in an area and you have to drive an hour and a half, okay, and I was in Medford, Oregon, okay? It's a 5-hour drive to Fort. It already snowed when I was there in October. So it might as well have been 100 miles or 500 miles, I mean, but if you're living in Oregon in the middle of the winter. The idea is, and I didn't get into this, that the VA is implementing right now, beginning to the largest change of an electronic health record in the world. It's a $15 billion program. And let me give you my vision for how it's going to work. It's one of the reasons I'm going to stick around for another term, is to help them get this implemented. The idea is that you go in when you're 18 years old and you develop, look, this was my medical record when I was Thomas Jefferson, the same piece of paper. If you lost it, burned it up, whatever, is gone. The idea is you go in and you have that record. That's a virtual lifetime record. You're on active duty. DOD is putting the same system in that VA will. So when you walk out of when DOD says you're released, medically or otherwise, that information is seamlessly transferred. Let me give you, we're talking about disability benefits. It was maddening to me to learn this. Okay, so you've got a record that's this thick, okay? The VA system, the way the electronic record system works, it's siloed. It's only in this hospital right here has a hard time talking to Mountain Home if somebody transfers down there. I've got patients who do dialysis. All right, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That's when dialysis is done. Let's say a guy goes in Friday to the VA at Mountain Home in Johnson City and gets his medicine changed. He shows up at the dialysis center on Saturday. They don't know what medicine. That's fairly important to know what a dialysis patient's got. So the idea is to have that record when it's fully implemented. It will take about 8 to 10 years to do that. And it's a huge undertaking. But the idea will be that that disability claims person can pick that up and look right back into that record and go through the whole claim. And let me tell you what else we found out. A little sneaky investigation we did. That in many of the ROs, they took a very thick record and only did a shallow dive, okay? You do a dive about that deep, not through the whole record. So what happens then, you've cleared that one off your desk, and you get a little star, a trophy or whatever you get. And over here, and so you've done a lot of claims, you're very effective. You're effective if that claim is evaluated properly, but you need the tools to do it. So we're doing that. Scheduling. The VA right now has a very disjointed scheduling system. So my idea is, we talk about burn pits. I don't want to wake up 50 years from now and they don't know who Phil Rowe, whoever he was. We don't know who that guy ever was. I want you to be able to find the information on her and follow her for a lifetime. So 40 years from now, you can look at your metrics, diseases that you may have, and find out, is there an association with it? So we're not guessing like we do on Blue Water now. That's my vision. It is a big system, John, and it's a huge bureaucratic system. There are a lot of good people, and I want to pass this along for all of you all to know. Our country, and I'm very proud of this, our country spends more money on our nation's veterans than all other countries in the world put together, period. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. There is.
Since they had war.
No, sir.
Is it per person?
It is more total dollars. One of the things that I'm trying to do is make sure those dollars are spent so the veteran gets them. Another deep dive on homeless veterans. We're spending $7.5 million a year. I'm just not sure the homeless veterans are getting that money. Yes, sir, in fact.
We're gonna do, we got 5 minutes before the doctor has to get on the road for his meetings this evening.
Well, actually, I'm gonna meet my Sheltie, because we're not gonna get home till about 11:30 tonight. We got about a 5.5
Try
hour
to make these, we'll do rapid fire questions,
Yeah, I'll
and
go
then he'll
fast.
give a final wrap around. Fire away.
Mine's gonna
Yes,
be
sir.
quick. Thank you both. Thank you for this town hall meeting. Thank you for your service, and my fellow veteran brothers and sisters, thank you for yours. Here's my question, and I'll be finished. Who is the Senate Chairman of the Veterans Affairs?
Senator Isaacson, Johnny Isaacson.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's easy.
Good, keep it like that. Right. Right. Go ahead.
Now, anybody-
With regards to the women veterans,
Where I'm looking. Oh, here,
Okay, sorry.
with regards to women veterans, I have issues going through the VA system. I have to go to 3 different hospitals to get treated. And now I'm being treated outside. Are you guys trying to streamline that better for us and actually build clinics designed just to treat women? Because a lot of my doctors don't know how to treat me.
Yeah, she is 100% correct. Look, the VA was built for men. I mean, they built the men as an old soldiers home where I am for Civil War veterans. There weren't any women or minimally. Now, at least 10%, the fastest growing segment of our veteran population are women. And I never really thought about it because my office was totally designed for women. That's all we saw. But that's not how VAs were. It can be very uncomfortable for women in some settings that they go in as a bunch of guys, you know, BSing like we do. Stupid's on the Y chromosome, you do that. And so we need to have, and they are doing that. The VA, I will say to you, around the country, I've been to many facilities, and some of them are absolutely for women state of the art. They're not all the way there yet. And not all VA medical centers have an OBGYN doctor. I saw in my practice, our practice in Johnson City, VA patients, because for years they didn't have an OBGYN doctor. The nurse practitioner out there was a patient of mine, so she just sent them all to us. That gets back to the electronic health record. We're very fast with this. The idea for that record is if you come to my office, it's a cloud-based system where I can have access to it on the private sector. I can be part of the VA team. In other words, we share that information. It's critically important to have that because you don't duplicate things don't get messed up in translation, all that. The answer is the VA is not where a modern first-class healthcare system needs to be yet for women. Okay?
Thank
A couple more.
you. Yes, sir.
Chairman Rowe and Congressman Brat, John Jackson, retired Colonel Marines. Quick question, actually two. Can you tell us the status of HR 5671, which is the Burn Pit Accountability Act? And looking forward, because that's obviously looking in the rearview mirror, can you tell us what the Congress is intending to do to avoid future use of burn pits? Thank you.
Well, what if, I'm sure most of y'all know, you dig a hole, throw everything that you can't use in a pit and burn it up. I mean, that's basically what it is. Colonel, I started, I don't know whether my committee, and I'm a little frustrated with DOD because DOD has been really bad at sharing information. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you how bad they were. We had a round table about 2 months ago that did not even have a representative show up. We've got to have their cooperation. I get the problem after it's happened, you follow me? And then trying to figure out what happened, what you do, what you burn up, who was affected, who was around it, all that stuff. So we've got to get them at the table. And basically what I started was, I don't want another Agent Orange 50 years from now. So what we're going to try to get a registry going, to get some real science in this and do it right. And I can tell you this scientist is going to try to do that and then figure out, is it related or not? Maybe it's something else. That's fine. It is what it is. So that's what we're doing with that. And I'll have to tell you, so far, DOD's been less than cooperative, and I don't know why.
I don't know why they wouldn't want to be part of the solution.
I think he's been waiting a while.
Yep, oh, yes, sir.
Thank you both for having us here. One of the things, I'm sorry, my name is Michael Noriega. I'm a Desert Storm veteran, I'm retired Navy. One of the problems that I see every day at VA hospitals, because I go there twice a week, and I've had to file multiple claims over the past 25 years. Reading comprehension is where you should be putting most of the money in, because that's why we have so many claims. We have so many claims, backlogs, and appeals. I just want an appeal in DC.
At the board?
At the BVA, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Judge Derek Brown decided on a case that was common sense, that if anybody could read the 38 CFR, they would have been able to give me my benefits without having me go through 5 years of an appeal. And I didn't graduate high school, so if you can imagine someone has never graduated high school, is able to comprehend the 38 CFR. Now, that should have never happened, but it happened either because someone doesn't know how to comprehend what they read, or they're just deliberately denying veterans their benefits. Now, anybody can sit here and decide that. I've had numerous claims denied over the past 25 years, approved after the third or fourth time. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a rater, and I'm not a VSO, but I know how to read, and I know what's wrong with my body, and I know how I got it. So if someone in the process had been able to comprehend what they were reading, I would have never had to wait so long for my benefits. And this is, I'm not an isolated incident. There's tons of us veterans out there. And there's a solution for it.
There is, and it is quality over quantity. And I've explained to them, because you hire another 1,000 claims adjudicators, doesn't mean you'll get quality. I want these people to be trained, as you said, trained and understand exactly what, and make this, and part of it is getting the information to them. And if you have a situation, I'm glad you went to the board, but here's a problem we've gotten into. The new system we have is going to speed up those claims. It leaves 450,000 claims in the old system. And VA has not yet told us and figured out how they're going to clean out guys like you that have been in the queue for years. I would suggest for those of you who are out there, go to Dave's office or to your VSOs helping you and look at the new lanes you can get into. I think some of you can get right down. And thank you for sharing it. I'm gonna do like one night,
Yeah. All right. Sure. And we'll stick around. My staff, everyone raise their hand. This is Chris, Allie's back here, Mitch is back there, General's here, Eric's here, and so we're all here to help get you in the right line. And I have access to Chairman Rowe all the time up there, or while we're down here.
Yeah, like we see each other every day.
Yeah, and so if you've got questions where I need to bump into his expertise, just let us know. We know most of those we have met with, and Janice has been working with like crazy. And so we appreciate all you've done to serve the country first and foremost. And we're gonna get it right for you. Guys, real quick. Yep.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you all. I just sat in on a town hall meeting with Secretary Wilkie yesterday, and they signaled a willingness to start making this aircraft carrier that's going in the wrong direction come back. And I want to thank you all for, number one, getting the mission bill done, and getting the authorization language, and getting that first time in 10 years authorization bill from Action made it before 30 September. So y'all did a great job on that, my applause. However, going forward, the mission bill provides a lot of tools, strategies, and operational art. But what's going to happen to maintain that oversight? Because standardization and implementation, even though you've got the money, it's going to be really hard. We heard how one state does well, one state does awful, one hospital does. So the oversight is going to be important. And so, and I want to say to all of you all, I'm a member of the Marine Corps League, and when you have somebody who goes to the VA hospital, when we have somebody that has an issue like that, and
Yeah.
they get excommunicated
Yeah.
from the hospital, we send a battle buddy with them. We send a Marine with them, and they go down there and make sure, number one, that they get in and there's a witness, and that it's not just retaliation. Because all of a sudden now you get a crowd, things happen. So,
There you go. Thank you, sir.
AUSA, MOAA,
Fantastic.
Navy League, Marine Corps League,
Right.
all of these.
And that's what I
DAV.
wanted, was to start connecting some of these dots. MOA, he's listed group after group. We'll
Yeah.
grab your card and maybe get your resources we can share with
Yeah,
everybody.
so
Get this-
anyways, don't feel like you're alone,
Right.
because we've been there. I'm a disabled veteran too, so if somebody gives me a hard time, I bring my pal, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
2 Marines can win anything.
Right.
I'd like to hear how you see the oversight of implementation, so that we can get this thing done now that we've got money and a plan.
You'll appreciate this, and Dave knows him very well, but Jack Bergman, you know Jack? Well, Jack is a retired 3-star Marine, and he went off his medication and ran for Congress like I did and won. in the Congress, and I asked him to be on the Veterans Affairs Committee. And Jack is our Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee Chair on that. So we've got a 3-star Marine overseeing oversight. The second thing I did, because this implementation of this electronic health record server program is so, I can't tell you how important. If they screw this up, it'll be a $30 or $40 billion mess, and it will affect health care of our veterans. So I set up whether I'm in the majority, whether I'm the chairman, the ranking member, we're going to stay on this. We set up a subcommittee that their only job is oversight of implementation of this electronic health record system. So you're absolutely correct. And I say this to you all as honestly as I can say anything. The VA Mission Act will be transformative, or it will be just another piece of paper signed into Washington that means nothing if it's not implemented properly. And that's why I'm here, to try to make sure that it does that.
And with that, I'm gonna have to draw a hard line to get him back with his security agent over there. I'm gonna come back in the meantime, General will take over. We have Delegate John McGuire over here. He's on the agenda today. We wanna have him stand. He's served our country as well. So you guys take control. I'm gonna walk him out. And let's all give Phil Rowe.